This is a suction feed gun. It pulls the paint from the bottom, and I prefer it because you can put it down and it's fine. This is a gravity feed gun. It feeds from the top, but the problem is that you can't put it down. You've got to find something that hooks on here and then hook it somewhere. Can you see the tiny holes on the side?
Yes, why is this?
That pushes out air, and it actually controls your spray pattern.
This is that etching paint, eh?
Yeah, you need to just get some. This is the measuring ruler. So what it tells you, you use this part, this amount of paint, this amount of hardener, and that amount of thinners. So it all depends how much you put into your little container, and then you fill it up according to the measuring. Normally happens when you pour the paint, it goes into the little well here. So what I do, I put a little tape on it.
What on earth is that for?
And then it's like a funnel. Okay, this is just normal thinners. You do this by sight. So you check the viscosity. So if you pick it up, after 2 seconds it must drip. But this doesn't drip, so it's still too thick. Yeah. That's good. 2.5 is good.
2.5.
2.5, yeah. You can see we go in the middle goes.
The middle of the last stroke, in other words.
Yeah.
It's now day 3, and I can see some things have happened since yesterday. I can see you've been spraying some grey here. What's been happening?
What happened, remember we've put the black self-etch primer on, so that dried properly. So now I've got MS primer on.
MS primer?
MS primer, it's a primer that actually hides all the marks and stuff. Imperfections on the steel, yeah.
Is that because it's a thicker paint?
It's a thicker paint, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
right. Yeah, I can see.
You could see they were like scuff marks, and they all now.
Yes, it's covered that.
Not totally disappeared, but they will once you start it. So what I'm going to do now, instead of just messing up my spray gun, I'm going to use the rattle can and just put some black on it, just very slightly. So then we will put the block it with a long block, yes. And it will bring up all the highs and the valleys. So the valleys we got to fill. That's it. You can see the high spots coming up now.
Yes, as you can see, we're getting too much blockage on this from that black paint. So what are you going to do now?
I'm going to wet sand it with a smaller block.
All right.
And it will take care of that blockages.
Yeah, because I can see it starting to, it leaves bits and pieces.
Yeah. I think also maybe it wasn't a great idea to use the rattle can. So it's all Chinese paints.
Let's see. I see this water on this is working very well now. Hey?
Yeah. No, it's better than that other thing. The dry is just clogging up.
Yeah. If you're going to put some kind of filler over here, it's going to be so minutely thin.
Yes.
What's to stop that from later on, once you cover it with paint and so on, to stop that not from cracking and breaking away and not bonding to the...
Well, what you've seen is the cracks appears under, or the metal starts corroding, and that is the reason for the cracks.
Okay.
So if there's no corrosion,
it won't separate.
It will not separate.
So in other words, the body filler that goes onto here will actually bond to the primer and it won't come apart there unless water gets underneath it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Body filler is very porous. Okay. So you don't sand it with wet because the water, it will attract water, it will go through it. So that's why you dry sand it and then you seal it with a proper primer.
Let's say, for example, this black spray paint you use now, if that is an inferior quality, Is this not going to be a weak spot for bonding?
No, not really. No. I think over here, in fact, we've gone through
through to the etching base.
To the etching primer. That's etching primer. That's not the black that we've put on.
Okay.
So we've gone through the.
All right.
So this is like spots of the other black, but it won't be a problem. Okay, with this stuff, you just mix enough to do whatever you have to do. If you mix too much, it dries on the job before you can get it done.
Okay, yeah.
So you just do a little bit at a time and work it away. This is the catalyst, and that's sufficient there, and then you mix the two together. Applicator that you get with the stuff, they just give you an applicator.
Oh, yeah.
So what we're doing, we're just going they are actually fairly light. You can see on the tin there, they call it lightweight. Now remember, in the olden days you used to get stuff that is so hard you battle for hours to sand it down.
Is there any sort of tip here that will give yourself less work later? You're obviously putting it as thin as you.
Trying to put it as thin as you can, but look, they sand off quite quickly. So instead of having to come back for a second coat or second coat, you're trying to fix it all with the first coat.
Yeah, I see you must constantly clean it off so that you don't get some hard pieces causing
there's
stripes
already hard pieces you can see there where it actually goes.
Okay.
So
a little bit of a clean up, and now you get much smoother strokes. The color of this Mustang, is it a proper Mustang color?
it's a standard color. It's called Sahara beige.
Okay.
There's a VIN plate in the door, and it tells you exactly the history of the car, what color it's inside, what color the upholstery is, what engine it had, what differential it had. So you can pick up all that stuff. So over here we're just gonna go slightly. It seems like a crack, so there was some corrosion here at the bottom, and there was like a crack here originally. So, and I thought I'll just open up the hole instead of taking everything down, because there's just so much filler on here.
Here's an interesting book for restoration on your Mustang. Ampie was just showing me here how, remember we spoke earlier about that little plate with the VIN number and all the details of that, and you can see over there it's all of these little numbers and things are related to fastback or the color, the interior, the trim, when the car was made, the order number, the diff ratios, year, etc, etc, etc. But yeah, it looks like you can, inside this book, buying a used Mustang. So yeah, there's all these tips and things in a handbook like this. I think that's pretty essential to owning a Mustang, one that is older anyway. Something tells me that this next part of this journey is going to be a long one. In your
it's going to be a lengthy process. It's I just want to get some paper onto my block.
It's quite coarse again, P36.
Yeah, it is. You want to take as much off as you can originally, and then
I guess you just start getting finer and finer and finer as you go.
Yeah. Over here the sanding is now complete. We're not going to go any further because we're on the primers. If we go any further, we're going to just make more holes somewhere along the line. So we're going to have to fill here and here and here maybe again.
If there's any little gaps
if
left
there's
over.
little holes like that, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think the next part of this process really Ampi has to now do, because it's going to take probably all day now to bring all that body putty down to nice and smooth, and even some places you might even have to refill it. And then we'll be ready for that first coat of primer, I'm guessing, tomorrow.
And with the weather that's coming up, so I decided to put a MS primer on it just to prepare the metals that it doesn't corrode.
MS primer, what is that?
MS is a primer that will take care of all the little scuff marks and sanding marks. It's a thicker primer, and you can sand it down, and it's quite a nice protective layer that you put on. Yeah.
All right.
So we got MS primer all over, Valens, and this is the one that was very bad.
Yes.
You can see the MS actually taken care of most of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, the scar marks and what have you. So, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to put a check coat of matte black, like we did last time, but that wasn't that was a rattle can. It wasn't a good good job. Remember, it was clogging
so you're
the
going to do
paper.
that same process again. You're going to
yeah. So I'm going to go do but I'm using a matte black Bucco, which goes on very finely, and then we're going to sand, water sand the entire area, which is going to be a lengthy process. We're going to use a big block, and we're going to use a small block, and we're going to use a round block. So they're all going to the water. And again, my water's got a little bit of dishwasher in. We've got to come back right to the grey primer, that there's no marks. We've got to get all these marks out.
Yes.
And if not, we're going to have to put more primer on later on. But yeah, the object is to get to the grey primer.
Yes. Is there going to be situations where you're going to have to re-put body filler?
I believe that we might have put enough sufficient, but yeah, there could be maybe one or two spots where, of course, we don't want to go straight through to the metal again. It's going to be a problem. So we just want to see how far we can go, removing the marks. So we're going to have to put maybe a little bit of filler in here prior to our next coat of primer.
So are you going to just keep doing that process, well, you're hoping one more process, until when you sand there's no more
No, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It has to look like this, where there are no
all grey.
No black coming through.
Okay, so now it looks like Ampi is now finished with all that sanding down, which took him all day. I did something else, so I didn't sit around for that. But anyway, I'm sure he's quite tired now.
We finished sanding. The grease of the elbow is all finished. So we need to put the final primer on. What I've done, I've actually prepared a measuring can for the paint. You can see little marks there.
Oh yes, did you put the little
So the first one there is the paint, the second one is the hardener, and the third one is for thinners. With the air gun, your paint's always fairly thin. Right, this is second coat of primer. I'm quite happy with the first coat, the finish of the first coat. So the second coat, I think, should be okay. We'll see once. The result is only once you've sanded it. So, but from what I could see, it comes out quite smoothly. It came out quite smoothly. So we will sand it out with a very fine paper, and then we should be ready for color.